Today we're going to build a 10 by 12 greenhouse. We're going to be using our DIY bender, 10-foot bender. I had done in a previous video on how to bend your 1 3/8 tubing in order to make your hoops. You can reflect back on that video. It is also on our YouTube channel to get a handle on how to bend the tubing and how easy it really is to make your arches on your greenhouse. It also shows you your lengths and so forth that you have to cut your arches out, which is your 20-foot length and so forth. So I will go step by step through this, and hopefully we can make this simple and show you how really easy it is to build your own greenhouse. Okay, over here is the tubing that you're going to need. I laid it out here on the table. And also the fittings. If you buy a 10 by 12 fitting kit from Colorado Metal Works, you will receive this kit in the mail. It comes priority mail, and it'll come with the receipt and then all your fittings and so forth that will be required to build your 10 by 12 greenhouse. So that is what you'll get. You also get all the self-tapping screws. So those are included that you use, to go inside the holes to hold your fittings in place. You also receive what they call a cable kit, which you put on your door to help hold your door square and stable. It includes a couple U-clamps here and then the cable also. If you look on the table here, you will see that there is 4 21-foot sticks of 1 3/8, because you're going to have 4 arches on this greenhouse on your 10 by 12, and you will have 10-foot sticks of the 1 3/8 tubing. If you notice here on your longer ones, on the 21 footers, this is what we start out with to bend our arches. That's our first step. I squared up the ends, and I came down to 10 feet. Hopefully you can see it there with the sun glaring on it. I came down to the 10-foot mark and mark the 10 foot. That'll give us a center marking that'll come in handy later as we're building. And then I came down to and put on another mark at 20 feet. And you notice that the swedged ends here are the ones that you want cut off. You don't want to leave those on. But you do save those. Those do come in handy because you can push these inside of other pipe and make a longer piece of pipe, like for your purlins and so forth as you build your greenhouse. So it comes in handy so that you don't got a lot of waste. Okay, now that we have our hoops constructed, what we want to do next is start the assembly of the greenhouse. So what I need is, since this is a 10 by 12, I need two 12-foot sticks of tubing So what I'm doing here is putting together, you notice, you push together the two those swedged end. You push two pieces of pipe together, put a screw in, self-tapping screw that comes with all this, and then measure out from your end down 12 feet. So we need 2 of these sticks. Okay, now that we have our 2 12-foot long sections of tubing cut out and put together, what we do now is we just lay them out on a level surface, at least partially level, and once we do, we take our corner fittings. You'll see them here. This is the way they go on, with the long side at the ground. So they go on the end of the tubing like that. But before we do, we slide on our other 2 fittings, which is our T-fittings. So we slide on 2 T-fittings per side, and make sure your holes are towards you on the inside, so that the screws end up being assembled on the inside and don't end up tearing the plastic. So you slide both of these guys on. Kind of doing this with one hand, so it's, and then you slide your corner fittings on the ends like this. Don't screw, make sure your corner fittings flush on the end, but don't screw anything down yet. And I did that to the other end, as you can see here. Put on the corner fitting, made sure it was flush with the pipe. And I did that on both sides. I put my 2 T-fittings in the middle, because those will be for the other arches. And then here's the other corner fitting. And then what I did is you just set your arches on. Now I started at one end, I set the arch on, and then I measured from outside to outside, giving me my 10-foot width on the greenhouse. And then I took the tape measure and just placed it inside the hole there, over to the inside of this one, so that I could see how long my end tubing is here, because it won't be exactly 10 feet, because outside to outside on the arch is 10 feet. So it actually came out to be 117 inches. So what I do now is cut 2 pieces at 117 inches, and this will make up our bottom base frame of our greenhouse. Okay, you can see the 2 pieces of tubing that I installed, that I measured out to 117 inches. As you can see, I installed 2 T-fittings on each end. What these will be is the bottom of the doorway and the bottom of the window. These T-fittings will be the pipes, you know, your uprights. I'm going to start assembling and putting on the arches. And as I do this, I'll film how the fitting should set. And this is a back arch, so your front and back arch are going to look the same on the fittings. You notice here, the very first fitting that I put on here was a T-fitting. You can see the way it's facing. And then I put on a, what they call an angle T-fitting. And then the next fitting is just a regular T-fitting. And then another angle T-fitting, and you can see it's facing the opposite way of the first one. And then I put on another T-fitting. Now you'll notice as these come up and around, you'll see, because these straight T-fittings here are for the purlins. These angle T-fittings that you see here are for the uprights on the window and the doorway at the ends. On your center arches, it'll require 3 of your cross fittings. And as you slide these on, you make sure that your screw holes are facing down inside the greenhouse. That way when you put your screws in, you know, your plastic isn't rubbing against your screw heads on the outside. Now, if you have noticed, I haven't put any self-tapping screws in, because I want everything to be in place before I do. It just helps you from making any mistakes, and where you can get everything evened up and so forth. This is basically how the fittings will go on. I'll go into it here in just a second. I'll film so you can see what it'll look like. Make you more comfortable, you know, as you go to assemble yours. We've got a few more fittings left. Those will be for the doorway and the window in the back. So as we do this, you will see how it all assembles. So basically, right at the top, you can see the way the fittings will look. Now understand that these fittings here, these angled T fittings, they will go over for the doorway. Now they do got a drastic angle, but when you put your pipe in, these will actually flex. So let me get to the filming it here. But they do have, like I see here, they've got a more of a drastic angle, but is you put your pipe into them and bend them around straight, you can figure out, you know, what your angle is going to be. The reason why I do it this way is because some people want different widths on doorways and windows, and so the angle is going to change with that. The neat thing about the fitting is when you put your pipe in, like I say, it'll flex to wherever you're going to you know, the width of your window or the width of your doorway. So you can see these 3 fittings on the end. This one here will actually bend up and be for the purlin. And then you can see these, you'll have one on each side that will also pull up to wherever you want your purlin, you know, along your sides. And that's the way it'll go on. And you've got one on each side that you'll do that with. And then on your center ones, you'll see you've got what they call T fittings, or I'm sorry, cross fittings. So as you go up, you'll see your cross fitting in the middle, and that's the way it'll face, you know, with your screw holes down. And then another cross fitting over here, which you'll pull up to match your purlins, the height of your purlins on each side. And then, like we said, here's the back, so it's going to be the same as the front. This will pull up for the purlin, and then these will go out to wherever width you want for your window. You put your pipe in and just tweak it back like this, and that'll flex right back so you can get a straight poles coming down to your bottom fittings there. So now what I'm going to do is go cut all the purlins. Once I get them all measured out, I'll show you what size to cut them, because what you're basically doing is just evening out you know, making even spaces in between your 4 arches. Okay, I've got my purlins cut and installed. I cut them at 46 and 1/8 inch. There was 9 of them. We've got 3 per section. We got 3 sections in between, so we've got 9 of them total. The easiest way to install these is to, as you install the purlins in, is to leave your arches loose at the bottom on the railing. But as for the arch going into the fitting, you can put a screw in it. Makes it easier so it isn't popping out all the time. But still leave your arches at the very bottom on the railing loose so that you can kind of maneuver your purlins in and out. Also, I measured, if you remember when we measured 10-foot center, that's where I lined up each one of the purlins at the top. I did those first. The reason being is because if they're off just a tiny bit, you can actually grab the arch. Say if the second one is to the right too much, what you can do is come over here and grab the arch on the side and just bend back on it. Put your weight on it. And as you do, what you'll do is you'll straighten that arch up. This metal is neat because it's flexible. It'll work with you. It'll walk. So you do this until you can see here you've got a nice straight arch or a nice straight line on your purlins. And then I went down and measured from the top down 5 feet on each side. And that's where I started my fitting and started the purlins on each side, is at 5 feet. And I did the same front and back, screwed those in, and then basically just looked down the edges here and lined up my ones in the center so that I got fairly straight on those. Once you get done with all that and they're all screwed together, your purlins are screwed together, then I came in on the bottom and measured 46 and a 1/8 inch apart on the spacing on the bottom, and then I secured those in with self-tapping screws. Now that we got the basic frame of the greenhouse assembled, we will start on assembling the ends of the greenhouse, consisting of the doorway and the window. We started by cutting out 3 pieces of pipe of your 1 3/8 tubing, cutting them out to 30 1/4 inches. And then on each end of them, I screwed on the T-fittings. This works best if you got a surface that's flush where you can put them down and you know, keep them even as you attach them to the pipe. You'll notice that I just temporarily put the 2 cross braces in on the doorway, basically just to get my spacing on the uprights here. And then what I'll do is measure off to get it centered, and then go up above there and mark the pipes where they need cut. This is a good idea to do this you know, after you get your arches and after you get the rest of the frame put in, because the height of your arch sometimes will vary on each greenhouse. It depends on how the person bends the arch and so forth. So it could vary. That's why I do it this way, so that I can get it exact on the height of the uprights for the doorway. And obviously I do the same for the window frame too. And then afterwards, after I get these cut, I'll just install the top brace, and the bottom brace will come out and it goes back on the window uprights at the other end. Okay, I've got the doorway centered on the greenhouse frame here, and I got the screws put in at the bottom. So now what I want to do is determine the height of the uprights here. And if you notice how the uprights are, the fittings are, the angled T's, they're a little bit bent out of shape here. So all you do is get you one of your end pieces that you've cut off and just scoot it up inside of it, bring it down to where you're about even with your fitting there, and then just pull over with it. If you notice, it'll bend. It'll bend right into place. So then your fitting is in line with your upright. And then from there I can mark the upright and cut it, and then finish assembling it. It's kind of handy. I use some ties just to hold the upright to the arch, you know, as I'm working on it. So you can do different things with it, rope or tape or whatever, but that is how you do it. Okay, here's our basic doorway frame in. I went ahead and put the brace in at the top. You can make your doorway at any height that you choose to, up to obviously the top of the arch, but I chose to make ours at 76 inches high. And so there's the doorway frame. What I'll do now is go to the rear of the greenhouse and put in the window frame. And then I'll come back to the front of this, and the last thing I'll have to do is to build the frame is to put on the doorway with the hinges and the latch. Okay, I got the window in the back framed in, as you can see. It's basically the same as the doorway, so it's got the two crossbars on it. You can make your window whatever size you want to. Obviously you might want to put a fan in it or whatever you want to put inside of it, so you can match it to that size. So I actually just went, obviously on the uprights the same width as the doorway, which is you know, the pipes that I cut going across were 30 1/4 inches, and I made the opening 21 inches tall. Okay, next we're going to start on the doorway. These are the fittings that you're going to have left over that you'll be using on the doorway. You'll see here that you have your 4 corner fittings, your 90-degree corner fittings, and those will go around the doorway. And then you've got your 2 hinges, your latch, and then your cable kit that you'll attach to keep the doorway from sagging and keep it always squared up. So, okay, I'm installing the doorway onto the greenhouse. I'll give you a few tips learned by my mistakes. I forgot to put the hinges on here on the uprights. So before you install the uprights, make sure you put the one side of the hinge on the upright, and the side you'll be putting on is this one here. Make sure you put it in the right way where this is flush here. You'll notice on the other side it's got a little bit of play in it, or a little bit of spacing here, but you want the flush edge facing up. And the hinges will go on the right hand side of the door. So that's a good tip, to put that on. If for some odd reason you forget, basically all you do is take your screw loose on your top part of your T, on each bottom T, and then you can actually kind of put pressure top and bottom and pop the pipe off on the bottom and install them. Another thing that makes it easy is I got these zip ties, especially when you're working by yourself to do this. So I got these zip ties you can put on. Get you a set of those, and you can put those on, and it'll just hang your doorway inside the frame while you were screwing things down and adjusting your hinges and so forth. So, and also when you put your door frame together, make sure that you put on the door frame itself the other part of the hinge. Obviously this will be facing down, and then also make sure that you put your latch on, because this is what flops over, you know, that you can open inside or outside. So just a few good tips to do so that you don't got to go back and remove screws, but it doesn't hurt nothing if you do, but just to save time. So I am going to go ahead and finish putting on the hinges and the door latch, and then I'll show you the finished product. Okay, I got the doorway hinges and latch installed. As you see here, I left the ties on, and what I'm doing now is putting on the cable kit so that it'll hold the door square so that you don't get any sagging on it. Basically what you do is get your cable to go through. You can see you got to kind of bend it around, but get it to go through the hole here, and just braid it around, and put your clamps on. Put your clamp on top, and then when you get down here to the bottom, just tighten it up, put your clamp on, and make sure that cable's good and tight. And then as soon as it is, you can undo your ties up at the top, and you can use tape up there if you don't have any ties or whatever, you know, electrical tape or whatever, pieces of wire. But undo your ties at the top, and then you will be done. That will be the finished product, and I will show you as soon as I get these put into place. Okay, here's your finished greenhouse. I got the door all on, which is the last step. You can see how the latch works. Got the cable kit on. It holds the door square. It's neat because the latch, you can use it on inside or outside. So you can use it on both sides, access it. And there's the completed greenhouse.